Hi everyone, welcome back. Today is another day, so you might be wondering where I was. I was actually needed of time rest for myself. That's the one thing about being a content creator is we do not need permission to decompress or de-stress from the busyness of life. It was a time for me to reflect and kind of go through spaces in my apartment and got rid of a lot of junk and cleaning and sorting things out, because one of the things that I usually love to do when seasons change is that I like to reorganize, restructure. It really gives me clarity and sort things out. It's kind of a ritual for me that I normally do every year when spring comes around. That is my natural way of decleansing. Anyhow, and today's topic is alluded to a point where you can find solitude in silence, or silence in solitude rather. In today's title is about being silent, for we are being bombarded with too much noise in the world today. We are constantly have been programmed to entertain ourselves. We are not short of entertainment and podcasts and talk shows and videos, TikTok, Instagram, short feed that will constantly going to make your brain want to just say, give me a break. Because we have been programmed as a society to constantly be busy. And one of the things that I learned in my life is when you listen to yourself and try to make it so minimal, the noise around you is going to be either loud or not. It's up to you really of what kind of entertainment you choose for yourselves. And I think silence in solitude, we find solitude when we become quiet, is that we will never find that out there. If you're going to wait for someone to make you at peace and become silent, it's going to make you disappointed, because the world is not designed that way. If you look around the world is constantly engaging and constantly want for you to be accessible 24 hours. So silence is perceived as boredom. It is uncommon to be quiet in this society, in a world where there's constant noise, hustling and bustling of a busy street and city. The energy that it vibrates are hurried, worried. In my own life and based on my observation, I've been too caught up watching my content sometimes, or other people's content, trying to compete with other people. And sometimes you are constantly going to ask yourselves, am I doing enough? Am I not enough? You compare yourself to people's lifestyle, and now you somehow think that you are losing in the game, or maybe you're too behind, because everybody seems as though they have all their life figured out, and here you are, you have no idea what you want to do with your life. And so we're often over consuming things that sometimes, if you're not careful, you're actually there not to consume educational or anything that is going to make you grow. Sometimes, if we're not careful, we are consuming things that are going to drain our energy, drain our mental capacity, because our brain is not programmed to be constantly, always 24 hours on the clock. We are actually human being. And when you observe the nature, there's time to rest on the winter days. During winter times, the trees are bare and the leaves have fallen off. It's the time for them to hibernate, and usually animals do the same thing. And now that it's springtime, of course, you can also see the flourishing of flowers, the birds chirping, the bees, and all the beautiful butterflies probably is going to come out anytime soon. Nevertheless, when we are attuned to the surroundings around us, and you also are aware of yourself, of what needs to be done in the moment, you're going to actually do much more service to yourself. Because we as a society, we think that the only way to win in life is to compete with each other, to always win and to always achieve more and be more and to show up for everybody. Wouldn't you think that's too exhausting sometimes? And we become so drained that we are unproductive. When I find myself drained and I have nothing to give, my job is lousy and my creativity becomes stale. I rather want to sometimes create out of not force, but out of ease and grace. When I like to create something, I'm not sure where this video is going. Maybe I'm going to go towards podcasting or perhaps vlogging some other times. But there are days that I just don't feel like picking up the camera. And when you force yourself to be something because society or perhaps your own brain is forcing you to do something, they're actually inside of you, your inner self tells you it is not the time, then for me it's somewhat betrayal to oneself, because you cannot force something when you know deep down inside your heart it actually makes you want to stop. So when I create something in this past few days, if you have been following my video and you have not watched my previous videos on my playlist, when I was in that zone of creativity, it just flows. I can feel it. There's certain je ne sais quoi, whatever you want to call it, magic into it. I don't have to force it. I just don't need to really tell myself that you're going to do this. Because for me, as I said, when you create something, it must come to a place of peace. It doesn't have to make it so hard for you to do it. I know that for some people, they like to have consistency and they want to have some kind of validation for their followers to say this is exactly what I'm doing. But part of being a content creator, and that's why I love being on YouTube, is that you don't have to do all of that. This is why you create this, because you need to have your own autonomy to choose whatever content you want to create. That's a beautiful thing about being on YouTube. Unlike, of course, if you have a job, you have to show up and you have to clock in and you have a boss that you have to answer to. This is why I love content creation, and part of it is because you don't need to apologize when you need to rest. You don't need to apologize or over-explain to people that you do need some time for yourself. Because as I said, when you create something, as a content creator, I can only create from a place of silence and solitude, when I can think clearly. Because if you are too clouded with too much noise, you're constantly entertaining too much opinions from people, you are going to lose sight of what it is that you truly want. Because we have been nothing short of opinion seeking and whatever validation from the world, like this or tell me about what you think. And when I think about it, when you're a content creator, it's actually you have to think of what you want to deliver to your audience, not the other way around. Because some audiences might not like you. You're not always going to be everybody's cup of tea. Not everybody's going to like what you have to say. So for me, it's kind of doing disservice to yourself when you're asking people and trying to please everybody, instead of really looking within yourself and asking yourself the question, what kind of content would I like to create? Not to attract billions of followers or viewers, but it is the loyal base fan. At least for me, that is my focus and that is my target. I am not here to ask people to come in and to be part of my tribe or whatever empire I'm trying to build. I'm trying to actually seek and find people that are actually genuine, who have the same mindset as I have, and we think alike and we have the same vision. Because it would be such a waste of my time and breath and always trying to get people's approval, even though they don't really like what I have to say and they disagree with what I have to say. So sometimes when we find silence and solitude, is that we can think clearly for ourselves. We can actually have better understanding of what it is we would like to contribute to the world and what it is that we are about. Not always seeking and not always asking for people's opinion and validation, because people's opinion and validation can change dramatically. It can change from day to day, whatever mood they're in. So here you are at the mercy of people's opinion. You're at the mercy of people's validation, which is actually, you are doing disservice to yourself and to your content creation. And that is why I have taken the time for this past few days to just think about what I want. And maybe I had to pivot and to really learn how to just pick one topic, as they say, niche down, as much as I do not like to niche down, because I do have a lot of passion. But in the meantime, I am still going to show up perhaps in a form of a podcast, not necessarily a video. Maybe some days I would pick up the camera again when my passion strikes me, when some kind of a creativity pops into my head. But recently I was just enjoying being present in the moment and enjoying the time to spend with my family and to play games with my family with cards and Uno, and trying to rearrange my closet and really just trying to go through my life of what it is that I want, I also had the time to just ask myself the question, what do I really want to achieve in this life? Is it fame? Is it money? Because in times of reflection, those are the times when you can really dig deep and have a self-introspection of what it is that you truly want. For some people, of course, it is obvious. For most of us, the reason why we want to be in this entrepreneurial adventure or venture is because you do want to make money. You want to be financially independent. You don't want to be stuck in a 9-to-5 job. You don't want to have a boss that breathing down on your neck and telling you what to do. And of course, you also want to be famous. I mean, those are the two things that I think most people come into a content YouTube creator because they want to be famous. They want to be known for something. Or if you're not an influencer, you are going to be known as a, I don't know, political person, or you have an opinion about things that people probably would resonate with you. And so I have to really find out what it is that I truly want to contribute to this world. No, famous, of course, comes with a territory. I think when you really have the authority and you know exactly what you're about and you're going to be known as that specific person that people look up to, of course, money comes later on. Because when you find your purpose and meaning and you find your calling, perhaps maybe that is where the money comes in. But as for me, I am just a person who loves to create something. This is my outlet of expression. Not necessarily that I am not about money or fame. As I said, that comes again later. That is icing on the cake, perhaps. But in the meantime, when I really look deep within my soul, I do have a message to share, and I have a reservoir of things that I would like to tell people based on my stories and the things that I have learned into this world, as I have written my book in 2019 about the traumas that I have endured. So specifically, this channel is all about prospering body, spirit, and soul. It's about helping you grow as a better version of yourself, better than 5 years ago and 10 years ago. This channel is about growth and growth of mindset, and about not being afraid of taking a risk and falling and, picking yourself up again. This channel is all about focusing on yourself and competing with yourself, because you cannot really compete with other people because it will be such a waste of your time. The only person that is truly worth competing with is the person that's looking back at you, which is in the mirror every day of your life, because you cannot really control other people. Only you can control yourself. So part of the silence and solitude, or solitude and silence, is that, whichever way you want to do it, is that you also find yourself be centered. When I had time to think, reflect, and just color and listen to godly music, I really was able to get centered again. And for some reason, there was a lot of pent up emotion that was coming out of me. I could not stop crying. I couldn't stop really sobbing. When you listen to yourself, as I said, in order for you to be healed in this tumultuous world, in this constant noise of this world that constantly feeding us to be entertained, when you are silent and you remain silent and you find solitude in silence, you will be surprised that there's so much pent up energy that you have been holding on to. And that energy sometimes, or that emotions that you have been holding on to, that's a signal that sometimes God is telling you to just rest, be still. And stillness, of course, is part of, in the solitude, stillness is part of growth. A lot of people think if I do more, if I constantly have to do this and be this, probably I'm going to grow. Actually, it is the opposite. When you keep on striving and when you know that there's really not much that you can do about it, it seems as though you are not progressing, because as a human being, as I said, we need to take the time to be still and to be uncomfortable, to sit with our pain. And there are moments in my life that I really have to listen to myself. I don't have a problem going into a dark room in my closet, usually, where I have to sit with myself and talk to myself and ask myself the question, why do I feel this way? What is the root cause of it? Why do I feel overwhelmed? Why am I feeling sad? Is there a reason for me to feel this way? And when you really have the time to listen to what your body is saying and what your mind is telling you, you feel much better. And then you become more focused. You become more aligned, because now you have really taken the time to be honest with yourself and to be uncomfortable in the areas that you are uncomfortable looking into, which most of us would likely to run away because it is painful to look at our brokenness. It is not really easy to be honest with our trauma. And as I said, healing is a journey. It is never a destination. It is something that is a lifetime process. You cannot really say that there is such thing as a magic wand and then magically poof, you are healed today and you're better. As I said, it's never a linear path. There are days that you feel as though you are moving forward 2 steps ahead, and there are days that you are digressing, and that is just part of healing journey. And that is why if people are going to criticize you of not being consistent or asking you, well, she's not reliable because she shows up one day and she's not there the next day. But as I said, as being a content creator, that's a beautiful thing about being a content creator, is that you do have the freedom to choose of when you want to show and how you can probably deliver to the audience. I do not really like to show up just for the sake of showing up. And when I show up, it feels as though it's forced, it's not authentic. It is not coming from my heart. When I want to contribute something, it's coming from my heart. It is something that I truly believe in, that I'm very passionate about. So do not be alarmed that sometimes you can find clarity in solitude. You can find your inner compass when you're in silence. You cannot force people to constantly entertain you, or the world tells you of when you can rest and decompress, because they're not going to tell you, because the world is not designed to be that way. And so I would leave you with this thing that Jesus would say, come to me, all of you who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. It's time for you to sometimes rest and throw your burdens away, maybe by prayer and journaling. I don't know the habits or hobbies that will help you do that. For me, journaling is one of them. I do like to journal my thoughts down. I like to color and I reflect. While I color, I think about things that I would like to achieve in this world. And when I also learn to be quiet and in the stillness and meditation and reading some books, sometimes you can learn from the books, and sometimes by watching certain podcasts that that resonates with your soul. These are the things that I usually love to do. In those times when you're in silence, you can hear your voice better. You are more aware of what you're about. You are less likely to become persuaded by the noise of people, and you're not going to keep on vacillating between should I be this way or not this way. The reason why people always don't stand by their principle is because they listen to many voices. They listen to the noise of the world around them. They don't really take the time to ask themselves the question of, does this thing resonate with me? Do I really feel good about this or not? So do not let the world or people persuade you of doing things that you're not comfortable with, or it doesn't really align with your thoughts or your belief system, because you're only lying to yourself, and then you're only doing disservice to yourself. With that said, I have to go, and I hope you are blessed with this message. As I always like to say, be bold, be brave, and be courageous, and keep your faith, and I will see you hopefully next week. Have a wonderful day.